Wanted to start by sharing my own coming out story. Like so many in the LGBTQ community, coming out wasn't an easy thing to do. My family was traditional and conservative. Being gay in my family wasn't something that you mentioned out loud or celebrated. But my family, like many other families, grew to accept who I was. They saw that who I loved didn't change who I was as a person. It didn't change the things I like to do, and it didn't change the goals I had for my life. The beauty of America is its freedoms and the promise that you can achieve your dreams no matter your race, sex, country of origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. This is something we continue to strive toward and fight for, particularly as we continue to see a wave of anti-LGBTQ legislation across the country. And it's why I'm so honored to serve the President and the First Lady, who have stood with the LGBTQ community for many years, and will continue to stand with all those who come out. And we are thinking about those who are coming out or those who are thinking about coming out. And we are here for you, and we will continue to support you.
Look, in an Obama-Biden administration, there will be absolutely no distinction from a constitutional standpoint or a legal standpoint between a same-sex and a heterosexual couple. We very much would like to see you pass legislation now saying end, don't ask, don't tell. I want to start off by saying, first and foremost, I'm proud of you. There's not a single thing about you that's not normal, good, and decent. I think the country's evolving, and I think there's an inevitability for a national consensus on gay marriage. That is my view. I am absolutely comfortable with the fact that men marrying men, women marrying women, and heterosexual men and women marrying men all are entitled to the same exact rights, all the civil rights, all the civil liberties. Thanks to you, our children and grandchildren are growing up in a world that is far more just, far more open-minded, far more humane. But here's the hard truth. For all the hard-won progress you have made, for as much as we can celebrate how much better things have gotten, this fight, as you know, is not nearly over. By the way, too many, particularly trans women of color, are being murdered. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. Vice President-elect Harris and I are committed to being the most pro-equality administration in history.
Flanked by his defense secretary and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, President Biden ended the ban on transgender troops today.
The Biden administration is reversing a Trump-era policy relating to health care, HHS, saying federal law does protect gay and transgender people against health care discrimination.
I'm proud to lead the most pro-LGBTQ equality administration in U.S. history. But we must protect the gains we've made and fend off the cruel and unconscionable attacks we're seeing now to ensure that everyone enjoys the full promise of equality and dignity and protection. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families, it's simply wrong. And I said last year, especially to our younger transgender Americans, I'll always have your back as your president so you can be yourself and reach your God-given potential.
He is not just my boss, he's also a mentor to me. And I've spent sometimes countless hours with him, whether it's in the Oval Office, whether it's on the road. And I believe, for me, you're asking me my personal opinion, he is sharp. He is on top of things. When we have meetings with him, with his staff, he's constantly pushing us, trying to get more information. And so that has been my experience with this president. Anything else outside of that, I just shared with you what Dr. O'Connor said to me.
Behind me shouted a similar question to what I'm going to be asking you, but I think given what happened on Thursday, given the reporting in the New York Times and other outlets about the president's more frequent lapses, losing his train of thought, all of us saw what happened on Thursday, where he simply could not form coherent answers to many or some, if you will, of the questions. and appeared to lapse into nonsensical answers at the end. We beat Medicare, for instance. I'm going to ask something delicate, and you may not like it. The president may not like to hear it if he's watching, but I think the American people need to get a yes or no answer on this. Does President Biden, at 81 years old, have Alzheimer's, any form of dementia, or degenerative illness that would cause these sorts of lapses? And it's a yes or no question. And if you don't know, why don't you, as one of his senior staff members, know?
I have an answer for you. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
It's a no. And I hope you're asking the other guy the same exact question. Okay. Go ahead.
The statement that Congressman Duggan put out,
Yeah.
does the president feel like members, the Democratic congressmen, should be able to speak their minds on this? Or does he think, calling for him to withdraw is hurting the party writ large?
I mean, look, that's something about the Democratic Party that we really respect. It is a big tent party. Many people are going to have their opinions. We are going to have our disagreements, and that is what is important. And we really respect other people's opinions and thoughts. I think that's what makes, this party different, right, than the other side.
I do have to ask you about a different topic.
Oh.
Why is President Biden saying that his uncle Bozie was eaten by cannibals?
So, I answered this question yesterday. I believe I've seen some clips on your network about me answering this question. I don't have much to say beyond what I said to some of your colleagues. Look, I was there. I think you traveled with us too to Pennsylvania. I'm not sure if you were there at the memorial in Scranton. The president had a emotional and I think a symbolic moment. He had an opportunity as president to honor his uncle's service in uniform.
Ambrose J. Finnegan was a war hero, but the Pentagon says, for unknown reasons, the plane was forced to ditch in the ocean. Both engines failed at low altitude. Why is President Biden saying he was shot down? There's no evidence of that. And why is he saying that his uncle was eaten by cannibals? That is a bad way to go.
He lost his life. It's not, look, I'm not, we should not make jokes about
It's
this.
not.
Wait.
President Biden said that his uncle was eaten by cannibals.
I mean, your last line, it's for a laugh. It's for a funny statement. And he takes this very seriously. His uncle, who served and protected this country, lost his life serving. Our U.S. troops, our American veterans, every day, who thinks about them, who actually thinks they're all heroes, and they are. And you have a former president who disrespects that, who doesn't honor that. Said it as president, suckers or losers. That's what he said.
Where did the cannibalism come from?
But I think you're missing the point. The point is you have a president that lifts up American veterans, who lifts up our U.S. service members. And that's what matters. He understands how critical and how important it is to be commander-in-chief. I'm going to move on. Go ahead at this time. Okay.
Thank you, Corinne. Are you guys here at the White House in full-blown freak-out mode?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
There's a Politico
Peter?
story. It sounds like Democrats outside, the quote is, Biden's stubbornly poor polling and the stakes of the election are creating the freak-out.
So, again, I'm going to be mindful. I'm not going to comment on 2024 election. I will say this. The president has never forgotten where he came from, who he is. He understands what the American people are going through as they're sitting around the kitchen table. You hear the president talk about his time growing up, where he watched his family having to sit around the kitchen table, making incredibly difficult decisions. And the president has always said he's going to fight for communities that have been forgotten. And you see that in the policies, economic policies that he's put.
This weekend, you know who took his campaign to a black church in Detroit and made his usual anti-immigrant pitch. Take a look.
We're going to seal the border and we're going to stop the invasion of your jobs and the invasion of our country. It's an invasion of your jobs. They are taking away your jobs when they pour in. Crime is most rampant right here and in African American communities. And more people see me and they say, sir, we want protection. We want police to protect us. We don't want to get robbed and mugged and beat up or killed because we want to walk across the street to buy a loaf of bread.
So one of the biggest crooks in the country and by that 34 counts is what I'm talking about.
Convicted felon, yeah.
Convicted felon
Yeah.
is telling black people that people come for their jobs. This is the narrative that is being pushed to black voters. And they keep saying, you know, oh, black people are going to him. Can we look at the church? Can we get a visual
yes,
of the
please,
church?
of the black church.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure that most of these people even knew where that church was before they knew he was coming there.
Yeah.
But come on, what is going on? What do you think is happening
Well, I
here?
think that we see politicians go to black churches about
Right.
5 to 6 months before an election.
Right.
Because they try to earn our vote. I think they need to continuously go to black churches year after year after year, because black churches have been sort of the bastion of the civil rights movement. And it's a political thing for us. You know, I go to St. Charles Borromeo. It's a black church. It's not unusual for the homily to discuss politics, and we have meetings after the church. I will say this church is controversial. It's called the 180 Church in Detroit. It was preceded by another church. They don't want this pastor in this church. They're trying to kick him out. But the most iconic church in this area was founded in 1920. It's the Triumph Church. There are 2,000 new members a year and 14,000 average in attendance on a Sunday. He had about 300, but I didn't see a lot of black people there. And so I will say this. I think that I don't know how much longer we have to say, this isn't about black voters choosing between Biden and Trump. This is about black voters choosing between Biden and the couch. Okay? It's not about Trump. Trump has no chance at getting a majority of black voters. 81% of black men are Democrats. 97% of black women are registered Democrats. So this is what the scenario looks like.
Well, in this